Viewers, it is finally happening. The official release of Stable Diffusion text-to-image AI is upon us. As many of you know, Stable Diffusion text-to-image, similar to the well-known DALL-E 2 text-to-image generator, but of course different in a few key ways, has been taking the AI space by storm lately, first being accessed as a closed beta in a Discord server, but now slowly being transitioned to the Dream Studio website, which is what this video is all about. Of course, we also know that Stable Diffusion will be open source, and of course, open software is software for which the original source code is going to be made freely available and is completely legal to be redistributed and modified in whatever ways people want. People will be able to use Stable Diffusion in its open source code form to make apps and programs and Discord bots. Basically, they will be able to modify and use it in any way they want. Many people that were in the Stable Diffusion beta Discord thought that the Stable Diffusion would just be released in Discord, similar to Midjourney, which is another text-to-image AI that I'm sure a lot of you guys know about. However, this was not true. Stable Diffusion is going to be publicly available to use in an easy form through this Dream Studio website. Depending on when you're watching the video, the link to this website where you can use Stable Diffusion may or may not be in the description of this video. I will make sure that when you guys are allowed to have access to the website, the link will be in the description. So this website works on any PC or Mac or any phone or tablet, and I will also link the Stable Diffusion GitHub down below, because in a few days from when this video is being recorded, the full version of Stable Diffusion, the full open source, everything will be on GitHub. So yeah, essentially all the good links that I'm sure you guys want will be in the description. So as we can see on this website, it has this little eyeball logo, which you guys will become very familiar with. That's the Dream Studio logo. And we can see it says, "Welcome, log into Dream Studio to continue to Stability AI." And of course, Stability AI is the company that has made Stable Diffusion, and this Dream Studio as Stable Diffusion's new home, I have to say, is very, very lovely and intuitive. I think you guys are going to like it quite a lot. It's nice, you know, we don't have to worry about code or anything. We have intuitive sliders to mess around with. But in terms of log information, as you can see, we have an email and password system here, and you can sign up and just straight up make an account with them. Or we can log in with Google or Discord, which makes it super easily. Personally, I logged in with Discord. As you can see, it just pulls up this little Discord thing, and I just click the authorize button. And as you guys can see, we are now entered into the Dream Studio interface. It's also known as Dream Studio Lite, which implies that we're going to be getting a more advanced Dream Studio at some point in the future. And I don't know about you guys, but that sounds very intriguing and very exciting. And I gotta say, I really like the colors that they've picked here. We've got this nice light green and easy to understand UI, and it might seem a little overwhelming at first, but we are going to look in depth at everything this website has to offer. So as we can see over here on the left hand side of the screen, we've got the main menu under Dream Studio Beta, and we've got the Dream option here, which we're looking at right now. And then we've got History, and as you can see, I've got quite a lot of history already here from messing around with it. So to save images permanently, though, you don't really save them in this little history section. It's just basically a little thumbnail with the prompt, width, height, seed, and CFG scale, which are all parameters that are covered in the Dream section, which will be later in the video. So after you generate something in Dream Studio, you have to save it to your hard drive or whatever device you're using to save that creation. But we have a nice little track record here in the history section. And also we have this little redream button, which will take all of the same settings that you used to create that image and redream them, recreate them. And all of these images that you see, this history with these different settings and stuff where it keeps track of everything, these are only stored in your browser cache, and all of these images will go away once you clear your browser cache. So let's say I, generated a bunch of images on desktop here, and then I signed into my account on my phone, for example. You won't be able to see any of these images because they're only stored on this local browser cache for this device. So moving down from history into the prompt guide. So this is actually a basics of prompt engineering, or learning how to create prompts with Stable Diffusion. And it's actually a very useful little guide on how to get started. So I strongly suggest that you guys look through this little prompt guide, give it a nice read before you actually begin to generate with Stable Diffusion through Dream Studio. This is going to tell you everything that you need to know about creating a good prompt, and it doesn't take that long to read. And moving on from prompt guide to the social tab, this is a very small little tab basically explaining the various socials, what the company is, and connecting with the community here, the society, Discord, and Twitter, just a few links. And finally, we've got an FAQ, which might be very helpful. And we've got a nice little piece of compute information down here, which is going to be significant in a little bit. And I'm going to be referencing this graph. So, getting into the Dream Studio interface. As you can see right here in the center of the screen, this is where all of our various images are going to appear when they are generated. And towards the right-hand side of the screen, we can see some sliders that adjust the output of our final image result, and they have a big effect on the way things can look. So first up, we see the width and the height of the image. So over here, as you can see, the screen in the center starts to move this little outline, and we can see it changing the aspect ratio and increasing the resolution, the total resolution of the image. And the same thing happens when we adjust the height. As you can see, we can go all the way up to a 1024 by 1024 image. And if one of these sliders is moved past another, if we have the height at 512 and the width at 1024, this width is going to be 2 times the length of this height. More of a movie-like aspect ratio, while, if I make the width smaller than the height, this is going to be more of an aspect ratio similar to a photo you might take on your phone, or a portrait photo maybe. And this is one of the ways that Dream Studio is different than something like DALL-E 2, because with DALL-E 2, we just have a fixed square aspect ratio. You can't change it to anything, a little bit more creative or interesting. And it is also very important to note, folks, that this width and height, the higher resolution that our final output is, the more generations that it will cost. So yes, there is a pricing system to go along with this, which we will get into right now. I'm sure a lot of you are interested about pricing. A lot of you probably thought that, this is going to be a free thing, and it is going to be a free thing. Stable Diffusion is free open source software, so if you can run it on your own machine, and it will fit within 5 gigabytes of VRAM or so a lot of machines will be able to run Stable Diffusion at home, then you can do just that for completely free. But to use, their servers and generate on their servers, it is going to cost money. However, I think the pricing is very cheap. So on the default values that we start out here, a 5x12 by 5x12 resolution image at 50 steps costs around 1 cent or 1 pence, and that is equivalent to 1 generation. Referencing this little compute cost sheet, we can see the price, 1 generation or 1 cent down here. 50 steps at 512 by 512. And if we wanted to move all the way up to 1024 by 1024, for example, which in my opinion really isn't worth it, it will cost 9.4 generations at the same 50 steps. Where if we wanted to do on 150 step, at 1024 by 1024, it's going to cost 28.2 generations. But if we only wanted to do 10 steps at 1024 by 1024, it's only going to cost 1.9 cents or generations. So yeah, 1 cent equals 1 generation. So, depending on the aspect ratio and the amount of steps you do, it's going to cost more. And this is because it takes more processing power on their servers to compute something with a higher amount of steps or a higher resolution. So getting into the DALL-E 2 equivalent here at the base values of 50 steps at 512 by 512, which I think actually produces a very good image. At the number of images, which is 4 here, 4 images, this would cost you 4 cents for 1 prompt. So yeah, that's an important distinction to mention here. If I want to generate 9 images here, I'm not just paying for the prompt, I'm paying for all 9 of these images that are going to be generated. So for DALL-E 2 at their base level, of course, we get 4 images out of DALL-E 2 for 13 cents, where at the base settings here for Dream Studio, aka Stable Diffusion, we're getting it for about 4 cents. So at these base settings, that's about 3.25 times cheaper than DALL-E 2. And if you wanted to get a higher resolution image than 512 by 512, you could always generate an image here with the base settings that are 1 cent per generation, and then use a free AI upscaler, which I'm making a video about very soon, to just upscale that image using AI to a higher resolution, which is how DALL-E 2 works under the hood, by the way. And also on top of this, you get 200 generations as a free trial when you sign up with Dream Studio. And not only that, as further optimizations continue through Dream Studio, the price will become cheaper eventually. Prices are going to go down for this. So I think that is very good news in general, especially in comparison to DALL-E 2. A cent per image at the base values it's a good value, I think. And of course, you will just be able to run this stuff at home. So after covering all of that, we are moving on to the CFG scale. And this is a way of saying how much the AI will try to match the prompt, the actual words we put down here. And you might think that, oh, I want my image to match the prompt as closely as possible. I'm just going to crank this CFG scale number. Well, you actually don't want to do that. Sometimes you might get really repetitive looking images at a high CFG scale. It might be a little bit less creative of an image. And on the opposite end, if you have no CFG scale at all, you might just get images that don't represent your prompt at all. So you want something in the middle, and it's definitely a fun value to play around with. You know, different prompts are going to require different CFG scales to get the best looking image possible. And yeah, I think lower numbers really let the AI take some more creative freedoms, and it can be really fun, but you might miss a little bit of coherency there. The default value I think is 7, but I've been messing around 5, 6 range-ish, and I really don't crank the CFG scale up that much. You can usually get some really deep-fried looking images like that. It's also important to note as well, DALL-E 2 has no setting that's like CFG scale where you can adjust things to really fine-tune a prompt in and get a nice image. So there's nothing like CFG scale in DALL-E 2. Now we're moving on to steps. Again, this is the thing that the more we increase it, the more image is going to cost. The default is 50, but you can still actually get really good images with lower step values. I was messing around at 35, 20 steps, and you get decent images. We can go all the way down to 10 steps. And up to 150. You might think you want the most steps, the most time spent generating an image, but again, this can over-process an image sometimes. If it only takes like 37 steps to produce a nice picture of a lemon, for example, then why do I need to continue to generate further all the way to 150? It's less efficient. Personally, I have found that the more training the AI has on a certain topic or a certain word or something, the less steps you need to produce it. So if we're producing something really simple, like an image of a fish or an apple or something, we want less steps because we don't need that many steps to produce the image. But if the AI has less training on something, for example, a really obscure character, or just your prompt is super obscure and way out of this world, then maybe you want some more steps. But honestly, I never really go over 100 steps. So I would honestly stick from anywhere from 25 to 100 steps, depending on your prompt. And a good middle ground for me really has been around 35 steps. And again, DALL-E 2 doesn't allow us to access any kind of setting similar to steps where we can tell the AI, I want you to generate the image for this long specifically. So it's good to see that we have settings and features to mess around with. So moving on to the number of images, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is how many images will be generated from this one prompt down here that we will put in. So you know, obviously we could just start out with one image. I honestly recommend you guys start out with just one image to see if it gives you a good result with the settings that you're choosing. I like to basically start out with one image and fine-tune a prompt until it starts giving me a good-looking image with the settings that I have here, and then I like to increase this number after. So I get good settings, and then I can start generating more and more images of that same good settings. And we can go all the way up to 9 images, which is really great to see, because we don't have that sort of thing with DALL-E 2. I can't fine-tune my prompt really cheaply for one image per prompt, and then, oh, now I finally have these really good settings and I'm getting really good images out of this prompt. Now I can crank it up to 9 images. You know, DALL-E is just set at 4 images, so I could just easily blow a 13-cent prompt with 4 bad images. Whereas I can make, you know, a few bad images, tweaking the prompt, tweaking the settings each time. So moving on to the sampler. This is the diffusion sampling method. The default is K_LMS. So I'm going to be honest, I really haven't messed around with this too much, but I honestly recommend, especially for people just starting out to use this software, just leave it on the default value for now, especially if you're worried about just blowing prompts. But there is definitely a lot of settings here to mess around with, a lot of different diffusion sampling methods. And finally, we move down to the seed. Again, we don't have access to the sampler or the seed with DALL-E 2. There's just stuff they don't allow us to access. And the seed is obviously just the seed for that specific image. Every image you generate has its own seed, as we saw earlier in the history, and we can use seeds to help fine-tune our prompts, which honestly deserves a whole video of its own. But here's a good example of this being demonstrated. This is on Twitter, retweeted by Stable Diffusion. All of these images that you're going to see were created with the same seed, but different prompts. So the general shape is all the same because the prompts are tweaked slightly, but we get vastly different variations, so to speak. You'll see what I mean when you see all these different images. So it's like the same form and body shape, but the prompt, the same seed, has given us vastly different images here in terms of, what the person is wearing, for example, or how they look, what their hairstyle is. So yeah, this can be very powerful because if you find a certain seed that you really like, you can tweak your prompt just on that seed and get that much closer to getting the perfect image. And of course, it defaults to a completely random seed, but we can just click this button right here and then type in our own seed of whatever we want. So now we know the basics of Dream Studio. Why don't we actually jump in and start creating some fun generations? When I first start messing out with prompts, personally, I like to lower the steps down a little bit to make sure the prompt is cheaper. So I like to start out with 25 steps, half a cent per image. Folks, viewers of the channel, subscribers, you all know what my first generation here in Dream Studio is going to be. It's a variation of the famous lemon prompt. 3D Octane render, cute chibi lemon character wearing sunglasses relaxing on the beach. Pixar render. We'll see if we get something decent out of this. Also, another plus to Stable Diffusion / Dream Studio is how fast this will generate. And we will see here, the image generates. Okay, so we're definitely getting an image here. It's not perfect yet. We haven't fine-tuned it. That just cost me half a cent. Definitely see some ocean here in the background. Sunglasses, definitely see the lemon character. I think the word chibi might be messing with this a little bit, so I'm going to remove that word chibi and then press stream again, another half a cent. So now it's cost me 1 cent here experimenting, and that had vastly different changes. See, if I wanted to test those two prompts in DALL-E 2, I would have just spent 26 cents to get 4 images each. I can test and see if a prompt is good just with 1 image and spend way less. But yeah, I think that's closer to the result that we're looking to get here. Definitely getting more of the beach too. It seems a little bit more coherent. Click the generate button here. All right, okay, this is much worse now. We definitely want that word cute in there. Let's remove the octane out of it and we'll just do 3D render. And we added the word cute back in. And there we go. Okay, we're getting somewhere for sure. Let's remove 3D render from the beginning and just only leave the Pixar render at the end there. Okay, now we're getting some weird stuff going on. But honestly, we're actually getting closer, I think. I'm going to try moving Pixar render to the front of the prompt and see if it does anything different. Okay, I think maybe that helped out a little bit. I'm not so sure. But now let's start messing with stuff like CFG scale. So let's increase our CFG scale to 12 instead of 7 and see if we get a better result. Okay, actually that's closer, right? That's actually better, I think. Now let's deep fry this thing. Let's go all the way. CFG scale 20. What do we get? Okay, that is deep fried right there. It went too far. We went off the deep end. We gotta pull back. Let's give 14 a shot. Okay, that's still worse, I think. Let's pull it back. Let's pull it back. We'll go 10. Okay, I think we were actually nailing it at 12. Not gonna lie. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it around 11. Yeah, there we go. Look at this little. He's cute looking, but he's funny. So let's say I really like this image of a lemon. I mean, he's a little derpy looking, but he's kind of cute. Let's say I want to save this guy. I will hover over the image. It will show me the seed here for this image, which is, very important for recreating the image, for example. And I will click the download button here, and it immediately will download to my desktop here. And if you're on your phone, it'll download to your phone. And there's the image. And now I can take this image, do whatever I please with it. All images you generate with Dream Studio are licensed under Creative Commons, so you can use them for whatever you want. Like I could throw this now into an upscaler and upscale the image to 1024 or 248 by 248, which is what I recommend you guys doing. That's how you save money. Now we will increase the images here, the number of images we get. Now that things are a little bit more fine-tuned in, I'll redream here. It takes a little bit longer with 4 images, but not that much longer. Okay, after seeing more variations, I want to lower my CFG scale down a little bit. And maybe we will go ahead and increase our steps here to around 40. I'm also going to decrease back down to 2 images here and start to increase the width here because it is Pixar render. And if you guys know, Pixar movies or Disney movies are in a wider aspect ratio. So I'm going to increase the width to 768 here and click the Dream button. And as you can see, the width and the height have a pretty big effect here on the generation time. Okay, interesting stuff. We're getting more of full lemon character bodies in here. I think our prompt needs some work. I'm going to add the word simplistic in, and I'll say lemon-bodied character. I've never messed around with that word before, but we'll see if it helps us out here. We'll say they're just standing on the beach. I think the relaxing is messing with it a little bit. And we will click the Dream button. Okay, interesting. We're really getting somewhere now. I think the Pixar render is really starting to spice things up. So now we're starting to get some more consistency here, but I do like this one right here. Let's see if we go the other way and make it like a portrait. Portrait photography. Right, this is the last lemon generation I'm doing. I'm sure some of you guys are sick of lemon generations. Okay, as you guys can see, the word photography here has completely adjusted everything. Now we're getting actual pictures of humans. And you'll notice this one's blurred out. This is the content filter, which is a work in progress right now, automatically blurring these bodies out because it's probably generating, you know, a bikini or something like that. The content filter is basically in the works right now. It's not perfect. It's a little bit on overkill right now, blurring pretty much everything out. But yeah, this is in the works. So it's not going to stay like that forever. Anyways, let's generate something that's a little bit less crazy. Photography, black cat walking through desert dunes in Egypt at sunset, beautiful, award winning. And again, starting out with just one image here. I do know that my final image, I want it to have a different aspect ratio, but I'm going to wait to change that, and we'll just leave the CFG scale here. So what I ended up discovering with this specific prompt is that less was actually more. So I did close-up photography, black cat in a desert. I got CFG scale at 9, just doing 3 images right now at 40 steps, and I gotta say I'm getting some pretty interesting results. This is a nice close-up photo of a cat. Really actually quite happy with this one. Right now, I'm actually going to go back to a previous image that I really liked, which was Evil Superman as if he was a super villain, dramatic image, movie poster, no text. And yeah, this was the image we got from the thumbnail. You can see it looks really good. Here is that particular image up close. So yeah, it came out really good. So I want to recreate this one. So I'm going to go ahead and try the redream function, and it will automatically redream what I had. As you can see, with the same seed, same settings and everything, I get the same exact image. But now what I want to try to do is change the character from Superman. Let's change him to Walter White, and we'll see how much these images will differentiate from each other. Okay, we can sort of see the background's very similar, but we've got some duplicate Walter White going on. It's not really liking the aspect ratio. You can tell it tried to make 2 Walts. So let's go ahead and decrease this. We'll also lower the steps down a little bit. Okay, now we're sort of starting to get the same vibe of an evil Walter White. Wow, these are very, very interesting indeed. Okay, a lot of these are very similar here. We've got like this evil Walter White stuff. These are all really fantastic, I have to say. Man, Dream Studio, aka Stable Diffusion, does very, very good characters. I like this though. I like this idea, although, you know, we didn't have enough steps or maybe not enough CFG scale to get Walt's face in here. But we do have the seed for this image. We will use the same seed and create this image with a higher number. So a little bit higher CFG scale, more steps. A little bit more Walt's face has come out of the image here. Let's crank the CFG scale. All right, now we deep fried them. We deep fried them. I think we need more steps. Let's go up to 100 steps here. And there we go. Our Walt is starting to show up. As you can see, sometimes you need more steps with stuff like this where his face is really small, for example. Let's crank the steps. And yeah, that was a pretty decent Walt there, I think. You know, with 150 steps, we definitely got there. So that's a good example of when you do need more steps to get a better image. But they're honestly, in my opinion, far and few in between. Like, for our final generation here, I want an image of a watermelon, just watermelon. That's the prompt there. We'll do 15 steps for this image. CFG scale we'll just leave at like 5, and we'll do 512 by 512. Simple watermelon, you know, it doesn't take a lot of steps to generate a watermelon. And if I do 150 steps with a watermelon, we start to get some really crazy stuff going on. Like, we fully just deep fried the watermelon to the point where it looks like abstract art. Actually, this is a good image though. Anyways, folks, I will leave you with that deep fried watermelon abstract art. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Again, check the links in the description. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments down below. And yeah, the future is extremely exciting. I absolutely love messing around and playing with this tool, twisting all the knobs and dials and trying to fine-tune prompts. And you definitely can get some really fun and great stuff. Some of the best stuff here, like this is a nice macaw. And again, that Superman one I did was really nice. So lots of fun. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.